Welcome back, everybody, and a good morning to you on this Saturday. Unless you're in Germany, then it's like late
It's
afternoon.
still
But
Saturday. Oh, you
I'm
said
talking about the
morning.
morning part. But who would be there? Who would live in Germany? Come on, just kidding. Beautiful country. I was actually
You
talking to
don't
someone
know
who
that.
lived in Germany yesterday. She did try and teach me a couple words in German, and I forgot them entirely. I was gonna say good morning to you, even though it was I think it's a guten for good,
Yeah? One more?
and it's definitely started with an M.
Yeah?
But you know what? There's no way it's coming to me. So thanks everyone for
Guten Morgen.
there. It is.
See, Alec, if you drink too much alcohol, you'll forget stuff, so.
You're right. You're right. That's a truth. And hey, thank you all for joining us on this morning. Really excited to talk about some edge rushers in this year's class. If you're not into the term edge rushers, defensive ends, or pass rushers, whatever, but it's edge rushers, and we're really excited to talk about some of our favorites going into next year. Some of the players that you got to know going into next year's class, top of the class type guys, but you might know some of them already. Before we get into that, Lorenz, how are you doing on this wonderful afternoon in Germany?
I'm doing great, and I'm really excited because this is going to be a really good class. I mean, we could probably make 2 episodes and just talk about 12 defensive ends or 34 outside linebackers in this class because it's just an excellent group. I mean, we'll talk about a couple of them. There are more names to know that we'll get to eventually because we're the prospect prophets. We want to tell you about everything that you need to know over time leading up to the NFL draft. But man, this is a group that's got a chance to be really special. I already watched a number of players that I think are going to be contributors in the league, are going to be difference makers in the NFL, to be frank. Some are talked about a lot. Others, I think, are flying under the radar just because this class is so good. Like I said, we'll get into 6 today. It won't do the class justice, but it'll be a start, and we'll keep digging forward. We'll get into more guys. Jack is still
Right.
on vacation, but on Tuesday he'll be back doing the NFL breakdowns. It's going to be a lot of fun because he actually knows stuff, unlike me
We've
and
been
Alec.
saying we'll get Lorenz to do TikTok dances. I don't think that's going to happen, but let's get Jack to do TikTok dances because I think he's our most popular person on the show. Shout
I mean, I
out
have
to
more
Ryan and
followers than
Dell
him.
out there. That is true. You do, but
I just need to bring that
it
up.
seems like the people want more Jack, and we're gonna get you more Jack. We're gonna get Jack doing with Peaches some TikTok dances. So we'll get the people more Jack. That's we
You
need
ain't
we need to
getting
get it
jack
out there.
crap.
But shout out to the chat room. Let's get started here, Lorenz. You got first one here today that we have discussed on the show before. It's Adam Anderson from Georgia. Talk a little bit about him.
Yeah, Adam Anderson, he is one of those guys that I talked about, a 34 outside linebacker. He's very skinny and very lanky, about 6'5", 230. Doesn't look like he's going to add much more to that frame. He's not going to be able to add much more to that frame, and he's really in a rotational role there at the University of Georgia. He doesn't play every down because I think they're worried about his run defense. So just that much as a background, as a sort of deployment. Yeah, talk on Adam Anderson there, but yeah, like I said, he's skinny and long. I think he's got rare get off and burst. I think his speed rush ability is potentially unrivaled in this class. I think would have been potentially the best one in last year's class. I need to look at all the names, but his ability to be a consistent threat on an outside track is just really what you want to see from a speed rusher at any level of football, but I think it's going to translate to the NFL game. And then he can convert speed to power, which you don't think for a 230-pounder. But I think at the end of the day, whether you're 230, whether you're 250, if you got that type of length, that type of explosiveness, and that type of speed and momentum that you're carrying, if you get the technique right, you're going to be able to do it because what Adam Anderson does is he speeds up the process of these offensive tackles on vertical sets so much that the moment they arrive and he gets to establish first contact, it's just tough for them to be set, have a wide base, and have their feet set and then absorb him. So you'll really see it against tackles that are just a little slow-footed. He'll make him pay. So I think he's someone who can win in all 3 ways. I mean, he's never going to be a pure bull rusher, but on third down, pinning his ears back, Adam Anderson is maybe even the dude you want in the entire draft class from what I've seen. Now, he just hasn't had a lot of experience in the run game. He's like I said, he's not very big. I think he's got another concern for him and run defense is his below average processing. There's just times where you can see him. He's stuck thinking, he's in good position even, but can't make the play because he can't locate. He just unable to make the play. But I think he's a designated pass rusher early on in his career. I think he's that good. He could step into the NFL right now and make a difference for you on third down. Not a one-to-one comparison, but think of a guy in the role of like a D Ford when he was healthy. I think that's the type of impact that Adam Anderson can have. If he can speed up that processing, maybe add some weight. I don't think he can add too much. He can do a little bit for you on early downs, but I think if you're looking for someone to get your defense off the field and to get after the quarterback on third down, I don't know if anyone in the draft class does that better than Adam Anderson. In that regard, a really good prospect, and it's going to be an interesting case study because we just don't see a guy that's 230, 235 getting drafted as highly first round as I expect Adam Anderson to get drafted. So will he slide because of that? Maybe. But I think in a passing league, what he brings to the table is super valuable.
Yeah, there's a lot to like about Adam Anderson, and you're right. He gives you a little bit more power than you anticipated at 235, and the speed is you can't question the speed rush that he has on that outside track. So I'm definitely excited to see what he can do this year. I'm really excited to see what his former teammate Azeez Ojulari can do in New York. But that's just a hopeful Giant fan hoping that we could turn this thing around. Could use another Super Bowl for the New York Giants. But regardless, let's move on to our next guy here. We got a guy who probably most thought was going to come out last year, doesn't, goes back to school at Michigan. Aiden Hutchinson has been part of that dynamic pass rush that had Kwity Paye alongside him for a couple of years there in Michigan. Goes back this year and is now going to be the focal point of that pass rush. And Aiden Hutchinson does have a lot to like about him. I think that there's actually versatility with Hutchinson to potentially kick inside on pass rushing downs. Potentially as a 3-4 defensive end, I could see him play in that role a little bit if you go with the odd front. In the even front, I think he is a defensive end, a 5 tech to 7 tech. I wouldn't even push him out to 7 tech, to be honest with you. But I think that's where he fits in the league, and I think that there's a spot for him in the league. But Hutchinson is more athletic than I guess you'd expect. He's got some athleticism to him. He's very strong, and that's why I think he can play in that that 3-4 defensive end role where he can kind of 2-gap for you. He has that length, can play in a penetration type system as well, has shown craftiness as a pass rusher as well. I like what Aiden Hutchinson's been able to put on the field. And I'm excited to see him this year where, your eyes aren't going to drift over to Kwity Paye. He's not there anymore. So your eyes are going to be stuck on Aiden Hutchinson. And unfortunately, I don't think the Michigan program has been great the last couple of years, but I do think that Aiden Hutchinson's a player to watch at least going into next year. I think a well-known name at this point in his career, but with the craftiness he's shown as a pass rusher, with the versatility he's shown as a pass rusher and as a defender on that defensive line, he could definitely compete to get himself towards that first round. Now, I think he's more of a day 2 player, but have a great season and potentially could push himself into that conversation. We'll see. But I think that day 2 pass rusher that really is going to be a solid player in the league for years.
Yeah, I mean he's sort of the polar opposite in a sense of Adam Anderson, in my opinion. Aiden Hutchinson is someone who, what you really like, you just said that the Michigan program hasn't been as successful as you would expect, and I agree with that. One thing they do really well is teach hand usage for defensive linemen, just teach technique. We saw it last year with Kwity Paye in the run game. Aiden Hutchinson, I think, same deal, maybe even to a bit bigger extent. Now, he's not quite the athlete, but he's not a bad athlete either. It just caps his ceiling a little bit. It just limits his ceiling to win around the outside shoulder. He's more of a, like you said, 5 tech type guy. he can play some 7. He can reduce inside on pass rushing downs, which makes him very valuable. I think there's 4 guys we're talking about today who can do that. He's one of the 4. I think Hutchinson is going to be a really safe, either late end of the first or maybe even second round pick for someone. He's coming back from injury, so that's a bit of a question mark. But I feel like with Aiden Hutchinson, we've already seen what he's going to be. I don't know if he's going to get that much better in any way, shape, or form, but someone's going to get just a good football player. And I think someone's getting a day one impactful run defender in Aiden Hutchinson. I think I'm a fan of his. Now, we've heard people say he's a top 10 guy. I'm not there yet, or I don't think I'm going to be there on him because I just don't see the athletic upside with him. But Aiden Hutchinson's going to be a good player for someone in the NFL for 4 or 5 years on a rookie deal.
Yeah, it just reminds me of a guy who is going to sit in the league for a while and just he's going to be ready to go day one. I think he's going to be pro ready. You did mention it. I don't think that there's a ton of upside with him, as in I don't think that he's going to get to a crazy high level in the league. But I think he's someone who can easily be an above average starter in the league for your defense with that versatility, and he's going to stick around on some rosters for a while. Lorenz, you got a teammate of your first guy here. Did you want to go to a different program at all, or are you just going to stick with Georgia for all the summer scouting?
No, go Dogs. But I mean, I've been itching to talk about Trayvon Walker because ever since I watched him, I've become a big fan. It's been sort of my brand guy so far in this draft. I think he's a third-year junior, former 5-star recruit, really in that deep defensive line rotation, was more of a rotational player for his first 2 seasons. Man, I don't think there's anyone or anything in the way of Trayvon Walker being a full-time starter, getting a lot of snaps this season in a full SEC schedule for the Georgia Bulldogs. Now, you talk about him, he's also very long. If you look at his build, he played at around 290 last year. He's around 6'5", 6'6", 290 last year, down to 275. Is going to play more of that true defensive end role in a defense from a three-point stance, which I think is really exciting for him. Like I said, former 5-star recruit, looks like he's built in the lab. Has got that ability to outreach and control opponents at the point of attack, which is important in that Georgia defense on that defensive line where you got to be very gap sound to play at all. He's a great he's a very good power rusher already who's got the potential to really, with some more refinement, some more attention to detail, getting his hand placement right consistently, really be almost an unstoppable force at that. He creates knockback and drives his legs, just showing off that strength and that physicality that he does have. I think he needs to develop a bit of a counter move. He's really been, I think, focusing on run defense and being that type of power rusher so far. And then he's a bit of he's a below average processor. He takes a bit of time sometimes where you would think, hey, come on, man, just make the play, and he doesn't. So you can see him think a little bit. But you talk about physical traits. You talk about get off burst at 290 last year. Now this year at 275, maybe even gets a little bit more of that. I think he's a developmental defensive end. He could even go back to 290, be a defensive end, a 3-4. If he gets drafted by a 4-3 team, which is not that not that big of a deal anymore, as there's a lot of teams in sub packages, but I think he's gonna be giving you snaps early on with that power rush potential, with that run defense that he does bring to the table. But I think down the road, if you have a really good defensive line coach and you're a GM, you might want to get your hands on Trayvon Walker, because I think his upside is through the roof, as a quality Pro Bowl caliber type player on the defensive line. I think, to me, off a power rusher, off sort of that big end type guy, he's got all the goods you're looking for, and I wouldn't be surprised if he turns into a quality player at the next level.
Yeah, and for those watching, Lorenz has been on this kid for a while now. We did our first summer scouting, I think, with Georgia. I believe that was our first one, which is why I teased him about Georgia. But he's been talking about Trayvon Walker and this upside since then. So if Trayvon Walker takes off and becomes this stud, that full credit's going to go to Lorenz here. So We'll wait and see. I mean, I did watch him a little bit for our Georgia show, and I like the upside. I like what he's got. Not as high on him as you are, but hey, there's a lot to like on his film.
Just needs more snaps, man. He's gonna get him this year. I'm so excited for it.
Yeah, we'll see that Georgia defense has been pumping talent into the league. So I'm excited to see what they can do this season. But let's get into our next guy here, George Karlaftis from Purdue, and the kid who's from Athens, Greece, moved here, I believe, like middle school aged. I forget. I did a little background on him, but I think middle school aged. Moved here and has been a star ever since high school, really. But the kid is a phenomenally developed pass rusher and really good as a spatial run defender off the edge. I think that his best fit is at defensive end in an even front. I think that's where he's going to really succeed is as a defensive end in the even front off the edge. But I do think that he's got some elite pass rushing skills. I really like what he shows. He plays with such tremendous length that you can't really get a good punch on him if he gets his long arm, and he's really good at it. Sometimes you see players with length and they're not good at using it, and it's so frustrating. He has length and uses it really, really well. So really excited about what George Karlaftis can do in the league. Now, some downfalls to his game are he's not overly athletic. Obviously, a world-class athlete when you're talking about the general sense, but he's not overly athletic for the position, where I don't think he'd test out of the books on where you're looking for the threshold you're looking for at the defensive end spot. I also think he's fairly polished as a player. So there's not much upside, and I'm not saying it. Look, he's already a really good player that will come in the league and start immediately. I just don't see there being he's going to take off and become so much better than he is. There's a little room for improvement, but I think that he's kind of where he's at. He's going to cap out early in his NFL career as a really good player, but he's going to cap out. So I think that George Karlaftis is, I've seen some people put him as a top 5 player, top 10 player. I'm not there yet. I think he's an end of the first type guy, maybe mid to end of the first. And I think that's great. And I think that what he does is really good in that spot, being a great pass rusher, being a really solid run defender as well. I just don't see him being a top 10 pick when you're talking about guys like Kayvon Thibodeau, which we will, or Drake Jackson, which we will. Those guys, to me, give you that upside to be some of the best in the league. And I think that George Karlaftis can be an above average to almost hit that elite level. I just don't know if he can be a top 2 or 3 guy at the position. So I do think that the end of the first is more so where I put him, but I really like what Karlaftis can do, and I'm excited to see him in Purdue again.
And he's another one of those guys that can potentially kick inside if you need him to. Mm-hmm. I agree with everything you said there. Really sound player already at that age. Fellow European, which you love to see. And, yeah, man, George Karlaftis is going to be another player that's just going to be in the league for a long time, barring injury. And just someone's going to hit a double with a player like George Karlaftis, because he's going to be a mainstay for your defensive line if you get him for a couple years.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's going to be he's going to be in the conversation, and there's going to be teams that play a lot of even front, and then have some sub packages where they want to kick their pass rushers inside. He's going to be an excellent addition, and I think that this is going to be a player who doesn't have to come off the field. He has that versatility and ability, especially with the length that he plays with, to play 2 gap. He's shown the ability with his hand usage to penetrate. I think that he's someone who kicking inside might be where he makes his money. Potentially, we'll see. Obviously, there's a lot to go. There's going to be a lot NFL teams can use him at. So I'm excited to see where he goes, what system he gets into, who he gets to play with. But let's move on to the next guy, and I think this is the biggest name we've got on the list here, Kayvon Thibodeau from Oregon. Lorenz, take it away on potential top 3 pick in next year's class.
Yeah, I just talked about George Karlaftis. You're going to be able to hit a double. Well, if you're walking to the plate trying to hit a home run, you better have a top 5 pick, and you better hope one of the other teams before you hasn't taken Kayvon Thibodeau yet. I think that's going to be true when we talk about the class in April, because I don't think this guy's going anywhere. I think #1 recruit in the country 2 years ago, true junior. He's a long defensive end, and he's got great explosiveness, very active hands if you look at him. He's a high-effort rusher. I really like he doesn't take plays off, really, and he stays on the field for most of the plays, really, on that Oregon front, so it really speaks to his conditioning, something that really stands out with him. But he can get home all 3 ways, in my opinion. He can win around the outside shoulder. He's got a great rip move. He's got that explosiveness. Got a bit of a false step plant. And that plant for a second step, he's from a 2-point stance. He's kind of standing up and doesn't really use that full momentum, which is sometimes slowing him down a little bit. But it's really a minor thing that can be fixed very easily. He might have fixed it this offseason. He can win around the outside shoulder. I think he's got good bend. He's not some kind of Brian Burns super flexible guy that's just gonna have silly ability to turn the corner. But he gets the job done with that play strength. He won't be ran around the pocket much. He's got that rip move, like I said, to win. He's got great power to win through blockers. If they expose their chest, he goes right at him with that bull rush that he does have. He's got the length to do it, 34.25-inch arms. It's going to outreach a lot of players at any level of football. He can do that. He's got the leg drive to do it. And then he reads blockers if they overset. If he's got an inside alley, he's gone inside. Very good lateral agility. Beats the hands with that inside swipe. He's got minor technical flaws. At times his pad level is a bit too high. I just talked about the wasted movement a little bit. Those are all things I think if he wants to, he can iron out. And even if not, I think Kayvon Thibodeau is going to step into the league, be a very good player from off the bat, be a quality, year-one quality starter. That's really what you look for in a first-round pick, in a top 10 pick, maybe top 5. Whatever you want to say with Kayvon Thibodeau at this moment, I think he'll be that, and that just depends on how much better he wants to get, because he's got the physical traits. He's got everything you want to be one of the best at his position. So, yeah, Kayvon Thibodeau is the best defensive end edge that I've seen in this class. I don't think that's going to change because I've seen most of these guys. He's the real deal. I don't know what else to say. Kayvon Thibodeau, yeah, he's very good. Can win all 3 ways. Run defender. Gonna be a quality NFL player.
Yeah, the hype is real with Kayvon Thibodeau. He's the real deal, just a true junior, and definitely one of the best players in the country, if not potentially the best player in the country. At the second most important position, probably in the sport, usually you look at it's either quarterback or pass rusher that's going to go first overall. So this kid's got a shot. Just depends on if the team drafted #1 overall needs a pass rusher or not, or a quarterback. But yeah, no, Kayvon Thibodeau is the real deal. Here's a question I will ask you: Chase Young or Kayvon Thibodeau?
At this point of the process, or at the point of where Chase Young was coming out? So Chase Young before his junior season.
No. The finished product, Chase Young, right before.
Okay, then I will take Chase Young, because Chase Young was one of the highest graded guys. But if you're telling me after both their sophomore campaigns, I think Kayvon Thibodeau. Yeah, I think Kayvon Thibodeau would rank higher for me based off of what he's done through 2 years than what Chase did through 2 years, which was great. But right. Chase was really someone who in that junior season, in his last season, I think to me really convinced me that he's a lock top 2 guy. And if the #1 team didn't need a quarterback, he would have been that #1 guy. So as a finished product, I'll take Chase, but Thibodeau has a slight chance to get there. But I mean, yeah, Chase was pretty historic as a prospect, so we'll see how it shapes out.
Absolutely. All right, and we'll get into our final guy here, which is, in my opinion, the only guy that can compete with Kayvon Thibodeau to be the #1 pass rusher taken. I don't think he will beat him, but it's the only guy in this class that I think can do it, and that's Drake Jackson from USC. Now, Drake Jackson, there's a lot to like about him, and this is a player who I do see as a top 10 player in next year's class. I really like the versatility that he has. Just shot up to 275, was playing at 255, now has that versatility to kick inside a little bit with the weight, was getting used to it last year. Didn't really play, I guess, to his fullest extent, but still impressed a ton last year. The athleticism is no question. The length is no question. And the size is no question. The thing with the thing that really impresses me with Drake Jackson is he's shown that ability to, with his explosiveness, to get out and cover the flat as a 3-4 outside linebacker, which I think is where he's going to fit in the league. He's shown the abilities to stick on that outside track and really corner. He's shown the abilities to, and he's raw, but he's shown abilities to get past tackles with creativity. He's shown abilities to that I think he can kick inside slightly. I don't think that's where he's going to sit, but I think he can kick inside a little bit and really make an impact from that position as well. I think that Drake Jackson is not a consolation prize for the team that drafts the second edge rusher after Kayvon Thibodeaux. I think he is a real deal player. I really like what he can do. I don't think that he will take over for Kayvon Thibodeaux. I think it's going to end up coming down to the team that drafts number 1 overall. Do we need a quarterback or do we not need a quarterback? And if the answer is we don't need a quarterback, unless the price is crazy for a team to move up, they're going to take Kayvon Thibodeaux. I think that the team that drafts Drake Jackson after that, though, is not getting any sort of consolation prize. They are getting a real deal player who is going to be an excellent 3-4 outside linebacker in the league. Real excited for what Drake Jackson puts together this year. Like I said, getting a little bit more comfortable with his body. Went up from 20 pounds last year. I think he's going to be a little more comfortable in that defense. I think he's going to be a little bit more comfortable in the position that he's been playing. And I think that he is going to be able to really show people what that raw athleticism can do at that position, which is phenomenal. So real excited for Drake Jackson this year.
Yeah, so like you said, Drake Jackson went through a little bit of a body change. He was around 270 coming out of high school, played at 275 as a true freshman, then went down to 250 to play in the new in that new 34 scheme with a new defensive coordinator at USC. And they lined him up all over the front seven, but honestly, it's a little bit frustrating because I watch his 2019, his true freshman tape, and you can really see that length that he does have, that strength in the run game, heavy hands as a run defender, and then the inside counter that I really like on his film. You can really see it, and in that new role, it just doesn't come. It just doesn't show up as much. I don't understand why they would drop a player or pass rusher like Drake Jackson to space that much. I think they're kind of wasting him. So really, his deployment makes his tape a little bit frustrating to watch. To me, they play him at Mike linebacker at times. It's just, man, to me, he's a 43 defensive end, ideal playing weight at around 265, so 15 pounds more than what he's at right now. I understand defenses and schemes, and they're trying to win football games, but I think this is, as an NFL prospect, this is why fit is so important. Now, he couldn't foresee that there was going to be a new defensive coordinator that want to change his playing style and his playing weight around, but I think Drake Jackson, if you look at traits, and unfortunately we didn't really see him take a step forward last year just because there was so much other stuff going on. If you look at traits with him, flexibility, athleticism, it's all there. Length, it's all there. He's just got to put it all together. Like I said, his best move right now is really his inside counter. If there's a lane on the inside. I'm thinking if you're a team that runs a 4-3 that wants him back at 265, he can easily put that weight back on and add it as good weight again. I think he can do all that. I think Drake Jackson is not in the same tier as Kayvon Thibodeaux right now, but upside-wise, he can get very close. I just think he's got a longer development path, and it's really going to depend on which type of development path he takes. But we've seen traits get taken early, and he's more than just traits, but it's really the traits you're betting on if you're saying he's a top 15 type guy, which I can get on board with. But he's still got some more to prove this season than Kayvon Thibodeaux if he wants to be in that range, in my opinion.
Absolutely. And that does it for the edge rushers that we prepared for this show, and we are real excited for what's coming up here in the future with the NFL Draft Bible. First, a ton of stuff on the NFLDraftBible.com, so go check that out. We actually have our last show was cut up, put into the scouting reports. So make sure you check that out. Plus, plenty of other stuff going out. So be sure. We've got great video content coming out now. We got great scouting reports. We've got tons of stuff. So go check it out. Become a subscriber. It's worth it. There, you get all the scouting reports under the moon. So make sure you do that. Follow us, Profits, on Twitter. And I think it's Prospect Profits on TikTok. So go follow that. Hopefully we'll get more active on there. And Tuesday we'll be back with Jack. We're going to really dive into these NFL breakdowns. And then what I'm really excited for is there's going to be a lot more college football content for us to give you when the season starts. We'll announce more on that later, but we're really excited to be giving you college football content. You know that we love scouting and love just watching these prospects. So we'll be diving into that on more so at the end of August. We'll be talking about that, but really excited for what's coming. Trust me, there's plenty. I'm excited. I know Lorenz is. So, Lorenz, any final words before we get out of here?
Yeah, we might have already crossed that the 300 player scouted and written up in our scouting database. Now they're being updated, but I'll confidently say by the time the season starts in a couple of weeks, we'll have 300 scouting reports at least for you on the site if you do become a subscriber. So go do that. Come back for the Prospect Profits. We'll be back on Tuesday with one of Jack's or with all of ours NFL breakdowns.
Really Jack shows.
What are the teams? Do we already know that?
I mean, we do, but here, I'll look it up. We got.
I mean, we'll
Chargers
tweet
and the
it.
Washington football team.
There you go, Chargers and the Washington football team. We'll also tweet it out, so go follow our Twitter. It's down below, and just stay tuned for everything that we got going out and going on. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk to you guys on Tuesday.